Madrid's presidential candidate is promising Haaland and Rodri. Meanwhile, it's Trent 2.0 with Konate's deal. Forest rejects City's Elliott bid. Chelsea still haven't got a front of jersey sponsor. And there are some big rule changes ahead of the World Cup. This is DMAC Daily. Enrique Riquelme is putting it all on the line. Quote, "I have signed a personal notarized guarantee in which I undertake to pay 100% of the membership fees for all of Real Madrid's 100,000 members next season, should I fail to deliver." Now, this promise is referring to the guaranteed arrival of Man City stars Rodri and Erling Haaland to Real Madrid next season, plus the hire of a separate manager to Jose Mourinho, should he be elected president. Now, if you're not aware, the election is this Sunday and will be the first time Perez has faced a serious rival for the role since 2004. So, as one could imagine, Riquelme is talking the talk. But is this a load of nonsense from the wannabe president, or are we about to see another stunning Galactico promise akin to Luis Figo's infamous transfer back in 2000? Now, I bring this up because the pretext to that saga is eerily similar in many ways. When Perez was a candidate himself back in the day challenging the then president Lorenzo Sanz, he promised the Barca star Figo's arrival to the Bernabeu. It was an unprecedented campaign promise, borderline unfathomable at the time. Yet having inevitably won the presidency, he actually kept his word and pulled off the most dramatic transfer in football history. Yet fast forward 26 years and there's a new rival for the throne doing something similar. Now, given the political power Perez has amassed, alongside the on-field successes of Madrid, the historical redevelopment of the Bernabeu, and beyond that, Perez's desire to remain president, it's gonna take something rather seismic to oust him from that role, which is why Riquelme isn't messing about with his campaign promises. He's ironically going down the exact same Perez playbook of old to captivate the masses in Madrid. And whether you believe it's true or not, his messaging is certainly eye-catching. I mean, the guy literally went on Spanish TV and flexed a Madrid jersey with Haaland's name and the number on the back. To do something like that is mental, but to double down even further by promising to pay all 100,000 of Madrid's membership fees for next season if it doesn't happen is very interesting. Now, it is worth recognizing that a yearly membership with Madrid is 149 euros, so he'd only have to pay a little under 15 mil if he didn't deliver, which is pocket change for the ultra wealthy. But regardless, just how realistic are these two Galactico targets? In the case of Rodri, I think there's a very good chance this transfer actually happens. Madrid have been lacking a Kroos-esque central midfield profile for years, and whilst Rodri is not a like-for-like player, he's more of a 6 as opposed to the German, I still firmly believe his qualities are highly desired within the Bernabeu. Don't get me wrong, they're full of dictators, but none that actually dictate the pace in central midfield. Despite Rodri's ACL injury 18 months ago, which could be a concern, he's now fully recovered and at the peak of his powers is a world-class holding midfielder. I think he's still got 3 or 4 years at the very top, so it makes sense. The player also wants Madrid too. He's spoken publicly about wanting to return to La Liga and refused to discredit playing for Real Madrid as a former player, stating, quote, "There are other players who've taken that path. You can't turn down the best clubs in the world." He also only has a year remaining on his City contract. So in totality, I think it's going to happen. Haaland, on the other hand, yeah, good luck with that. Because despite Riquelme's comments that Haaland has a release clause and wants to join Real Madrid, Haaland's team has been very quick to respond, stating, quote, "All very entertaining, but not true." A respectful yet firm pushback against this claim. One that at surface value doesn't quite pass the smell test. Now, it's worth noting that Figo famously denied a transfer to Madrid was coming before doing exactly that, so you never know. But it seems incredibly unlikely that Haaland would follow suit in 2026 because he still has 8 years remaining on his current contract at City, with a reported buyout clause only valid from 2029 onwards. So this clause that Riquelme speaks of doesn't appear to exist, and if that's the case, I don't think City would consider selling Haaland for anything less than 200 million euros. He is the face of that club. So my opinion on the matter is that Riquelme is just telling Madrid voters what they want to hear in order to secure the presidency. Funnily enough, Juan Laporta famously did this as a presidential nominee in 2003 for Barcelona, promising David Beckham. That promise helped him win the presidency, yet he didn't deliver Beckham. much to the outrage of Barca fans, until they signed another superstar winger in Ronaldinho instead. I think this is a calculated gamble from Riquelme. As mentioned earlier, it's not just players though that Riquelme is making bombshell claims about. The managerial maneuvers are also being called into question, with Riquelme suggesting, "I don't like Mourinho for my project, I've got another manager. I can't tell you the name, but I will on Friday or Saturday. Give me a couple more days." There you have it, folks. Pep Guardiola to Real Madrid. Here we go. Now, I only kid. I cannot imagine such an appointment. That might just break the internet entirely. But then again, I didn't envision Mourinho's potential return either. Personally, I'm taking everything Riquelme says with a grain of salt. Right now, all publicity is good publicity for the Spaniard, and I think he knows that well. Gotta love the circus of Madrid right now, though. This club is peak entertainment. Staying on the topic of Real Madrid, and whilst all the political drama is unfolding, two more high-profile players appear to be headed to the Bernabeu. The first of which is Denzel Dumfries, having triggered his €20 million release clause from Inter. A pretty sensible signing considering Dani Carvajal's departure over the summer. Real Madrid now only has one right back, Trent Alexander-Arnold, actively in their first team. So to get this deal done relatively quickly was quite shrewd business. 20 mil is a fairly cheap price for a player of his quality. This is a highly experienced player. I think Dumfries' profile is something Madrid could do with as well. He's kind of like the opposite of Trent in many ways, with Dumfries possessing elite athleticism. He's aerially very strong and quite a solid defender too. In addition to that, his attacking quality is also impressive. He's frequently popped up with goals playing as a wingback for Inter over the years. Obviously, Madrid don't tend to operate with wingbacks, although he's equally capable as a fullback too, regularly performing well in that role for the Netherlands. My only concern with this signing is his recent injury record, but for 20 mil, he's probably worth it. Also, fair play to Dumfries, man. This guy was playing amateur football at 18. 12 years later, he's signing for Real Madrid. Speaking of defenders signing for Real Madrid, and as I mentioned in the intro, it's déjà vu with Real Madrid poaching Liverpool's Konate on a free transfer, just like they did 12 months ago with Trent Alexander-Arnold. Granted, the Scouser technically left Liverpool for a transfer fee. Madrid paid 10 mil for his signature, but that was so they could get him a month earlier for the Club World Cup. Either way, it's another scenario where Liverpool have let an elite player depart the club for next to nothing. Like Trent, they gambled on getting Konate to renew and failed to do so entirely. From Madrid's perspective, this is a fantastic deal on paper. Look, there's a lot of opinions out there on Konate. He hasn't had the best of seasons, admittedly, but this is still an elite centre-back, one that clearly upgrades Madrid's current backline. Alaba's off the payroll for a highly experienced central defender that has minimum 5 years at the highest level to offer. So to get him on a free, I think that's a fantastic piece of business. Rudiger's also renewed, so between the German, Militao, Huijsen, Asensio, and now Konate, that area of the pitch doesn't require any further depth signings. Can't say the same about Liverpool though. With Konate's exit, they've now only got Van Dijk, new signing Jeremy Jacquet, who's actively recovering from a long-term shoulder injury, 19-year-old Giovanni Leone, who's still yet to return from an ACL tear and has made just one appearance for the club, and Joe Gomez, who isn't exactly a reliable player himself. Liverpool surely need at least one top central defender to come in, because it's otherwise very flimsy at the back. I know Andoni Iraola tends to thrive with young talent, so maybe that's a positive for the likes of Leone and Jacquet. However, I still think they need further strengthening here. Elsewhere in transfer news, and perhaps the Premier League's most lucrative signing of the summer is heating up, with Manchester City officially launching a bid for Nottingham Forest's Elliot Anderson. Now, according to reports from both the Times and the Telegraph, City's bid was swiftly rejected, with Forest making it abundantly clear they have no intention of letting one of their most important players leave on the cheap. In fact, Forest's valuation is understood to be £120 million, a figure higher than the fees paid for both Moises Caicedo and Declan Rice previously. Now, City's interest comes amidst a summer in which they are anticipating a significant overhaul to their midfield. Bernardo Silva is leaving, whilst there are obviously questions surrounding Rodri's long-term future. Enzo Fernandez has been linked recently, but Elliot Anderson is clearly their principal target. The 23-year-old's rise has been rapid. Having only arrived from Newcastle in 2024 for £35 million, he's since developed into a key figure for both club and country. Remember, Anderson is now expected to start for England at the upcoming World Cup as one of Thomas Tuchel's most trusted midfielders, so his value could even rise further following this year's tournament. Manchester United are also reportedly in the conversation for his signature, but City are believed to be Anderson's preferred destination at this point. Remember, United just signed another midfielder midfielder too in Ederson for 35 mil. So perhaps they're looking for more cost-effective solutions elsewhere. I do feel like this is only the beginning of this saga though, so stay tuned on that front. Moving to another English club, and Chelsea have officially unveiled their new home kit for the 2026-27 season, and I'll be completely honest, I'm not a huge fan. I haven't liked any of Chelsea's kits since the Adidas days really, but this one is just weird to me. I mean, the fact that they've dimmed the lighting upon the release tells me they're not fully convinced either, because in natural lighting, that pattern just looks bizarre. Granted, this is a subjective opinion. I'm no kit expert. If people like it, then fair enough, but these Nike kits just aren't doing it for me personally. However, the biggest issue with this kit isn't anything to do with the patterns or style. There's one notable thing missing: a front of shirt sponsor. For the third consecutive season now, Chelsea are preparing for a new campaign without a long-term sponsor secured for arguably the most valuable piece of commercial space they own. Now, Chelsea have been looking to secure a front of shirt sponsor in the region of 60 to 65 million pounds per year. However, independent sponsorship analysts have estimated Chelsea's front of shirt sponsorship value to be around 33.6 million pounds per year. Now, this is a big problem because since the departure of 3 in 2023, Chelsea have repeatedly opted for short-term arrangements rather than committing to a long-term sponsor, believing they could eventually secure a premium agreement that better reflected the club's global profile. However, that strategy has also meant leaving guaranteed commercial revenue on the table while they continue their search. Chelsea's commercial value appears to have since decreased after years of inconsistency both on and off the pitch. While the club still remains one of the biggest brands in world football, the club's lack of stability is limiting Chelsea's negotiation position. But here lies the issue. Chelsea literally cannot afford to keep waiting out this dream front of shirt sponsor because they are already in a precarious situation financially speaking. Without Champions League football, they need all the revenue sources available to them to avoid further FFP violation. Long story short, get your shit together, Bowley. They need a shirt sponsor yesterday. Now, to close out today's episode, we gotta quickly talk about some big rule changes that are set to be implemented at this year's World Cup, starting with one of the biggest changes involving restarts. Players now have just 5 seconds to take throw-ins once they're in position. Deliberately delaying the restart can result in possession being handed to the opposition. Goal kicks are also under greater scrutiny, with teams attempting to waste time risking punishment of conceding a corner kick. Substitutions are changing too. Players being withdrawn now have just 10 seconds to leave the pitch via the nearest exit point. If they take longer, their replacement cannot enter for at least 1 minute, meaning their team will temporarily play with 10 men. Medical treatment is also being tightened up. Any outfield player receiving treatment from medical staff must remain off the pitch for 60 seconds before returning. Exceptions apply obviously for goalkeepers, serious injuries, and any incidents where an opponent receives a yellow or red card. Another major talking point concerns player behavior. Football authorities are now cracking down on confrontational situations, with players who deliberately cover their mouths during heated disputes potentially facing a red card. Important thing to distinguish here is that referees won't book players who hold their mouths when communicating with teammates. It's only towards opponents. VAR has also received expanded powers, so officials can now quickly review whether corners have been awarded correctly before the restart takes place. In addition, if a player is sent off for 2 yellow cards, VAR can review the second booking to determine whether the dismissal was justified. However, VAR still cannot intervene simply because they may have missed a potential second yellow. Goalkeepers will continue to face the new 8-second possession rule, while mandatory hydration breaks will add approximately 3 minutes of stoppage time to each half. The message from football lawmakers is clear: less gamemanship, fewer delays, and a faster, hopefully cleaner spectacle ahead of the 2026 World Cup. Personally, I don't have too many issues with the changes. I'm a bit confused with why VAR powers have been expanded for corner deliberations, but won't apply for, let's say, wrongly awarded goal kicks. Bit of a head scratcher there. Not a fan of the hydration break. That's just an unofficial ad break. But apart from that, I don't think these are going to be overly problematic additions to the game. I guess only time will tell. Anyways, legends, that's all for today's DMAC Daily. It's the calm before the storm, folks. We've got 1 week to go before football's greatest spectacle hits our screens. For the next 39 days that follow, DMAC Daily has you covered every single day. My body is ready. I have trained my whole life for this moment, so it's time to lock in. Thanks for tuning in to today's ep, and I'll see you next time.